Only a dad with a tired face, coming home from the daily race, bringing little of gold or fame to show how well he's played the game, but glad in his heart that his own rejoice to see him come and to hear his voice. Only a dad with a brood of 4, one of 10 million men or more, plodding along in the daily strife, bearing the whips and the scorns of life, with never a whimper of pain or hate for the sake of those who at home await. Only a dad neither rich nor proud, merely one of the surging crowd, toiling, striving from day to day, facing whatever may come his way, silent whenever the harsh condemn, and bearing it all for the love of them. Only a dad, but he gives his all to smooth the way for his children small, doing with courage stern and grim the deeds that his father did for him. This is the line that for him I pen, only a dad, but the best of men.
Edgar Guest's poem Only a Dad is about a dad who works hard, comes home tired, doesn't get much credit, and does it all for his kids. He's not rich, he's not famous, he's not flashy. He simply grinds through the day, absorbs life's nonsense without complaining, and keeps showing up. But if Only a Dad were merely saying that fathers should be appreciated, it would not need nearly this much repetition, this much restraint. Only a Dad is about how meaning survives inside lives that the world has already decided are insignificant. The poem's most serious word is not dad. It is only a dad. The phrase keeps returning as if the speaker is testing whether the world will let that be enough. As if he's pressing on the bruise of modern life, the fear that what we give our days to might not matter. The central image of the poem is movement under weight, coming home from the daily race, plodding along in the daily strife, toiling, striving from day to day. This is not the language of progress, achievement, or worldly success. It is continuance, and that distinction matters. We live in a culture obsessed with trajectory. Where are you going? What are you becoming? How are you differentiating yourself? This poem asks a more serious and unsettling question. What if the point is not where you're going, but whether you keep showing up where you already are? As the philosopher Joseph Piper writes in Leisure, the Basis of Culture, which I'll link to below, the world of work threatens to become our only world to the exclusion of all else. The demands of the working world grow ever more total, grasping ever more completely the whole of human existence. And what he means plainly is that when usefulness becomes the only measure of worth, the human person begins to disappear behind the function. And Guest pushes back against that disappearance, not by rejecting it, but by rehumanizing it. This father brings home little of gold or fame, but what he brings cannot be counted. His presence, his voice, the simple, costly fact of return. This poem's form reinforces this truth. The rhyme is steady, almost monotonous. The diction, plain. The stanzas march forward without much variation. And this is not aesthetic laziness, it is moral fidelity. The poem refuses the language of transcendence because the father does. There's no escape hatch, no dream sequence. There's no promise that tomorrow will be different. Instead, there's bearing the whips and the scorns of life. And that word bearing does not mean enduring passively. It means carrying something that would crush you if you put it down. Notice what the poem does not include. We never hear the father speak. We never hear his complaints. We never see his interior life described in detail. This silence is not neglect. It is recognition by the author that some lives are lived outward for others, with no protected interior chamber where suffering can be safely aestheticized. To structure your life around the needs of others To remain present when no one is watching is one of the hardest human acts. And that's the Father's calling here. Not self-expression, not self-fulfillment, but goodness. The poem quietly resists the modern idea that a meaningful life must feel meaningful. This father's courage is described as stern and grim, not joyful, not affirming. And there's something bracing and uncomfortable about that honesty. And beneath it runs a muted biblical resonance. A man who bears a burden, who pours out his strength so that others may live, who becomes in a small and hidden way a living offering. But the poem never sanctifies his suffering. It does not say that it makes him holy. It simply says that it makes him faithful. The final stanza shifts the poem's gravity. The father is no longer just enduring, he is transmitting an inheritance. Doing with courage stern and grim the deeds that his father did for him. Meaning here is not invented. It is received, stewarded, and passed on, often without reflection, without language, without applause. And this is where the poem becomes quietly radical. It suggests that the highest human achievement may not be originality, but continuity. That civilization is not built by visionaries alone, but by men and women who accept the cost of being dependable. So when the poem closes, only a dad, but the best of men, it is not resolving the tension. The word only still lingers. The life still looks small from the outside, but we have been trained by the poem's patient attention to see weight where the world sees insignificance. And when we return in our minds to that opening image, a tired man coming home, awaited by those who need him, we are left with an uneasily beautiful thought that the measure of a life may be found not in what it escapes, but in what it refuses to abandon.